This is When You Were Everything, chapter Epilogue, pages 376 to 385. It's another long one. If you need to take a break, please do. Epilogue. Everything feels like a memory in the snow, but in the sun, everything feels new. The day of Dolly's open mic night is unseasonably sunny and warm, and it feels like a sign, a good one, when I wake up to the day's brightness. In the end, Daddy probably helped spread the word about open mic night more than anyone else. I asked him to hang up flyers, and he plastered the whole library with them, invited all the librarians, and told them to bring friends. Mom helped too, inviting some of her friends and even a few clients. I know my dad is going so above and beyond because he's trying to redeem himself, and I won't pretend that I'm not taking full advantage of his desire to make things right. Still, a part of me knows he can't help how he feels about Miss Novak, the same way I can't help how I feel about Dom. Willa tells the softball team, and Jace and Mace rope in most of the soccer kids. I tell choice people in my classes, and I put up flyers in the library, and even one right on the door of my locker. So when Willa, Sydney, and I head to Dolly's around 6 to see if there are any last-minute things we need to do, the dining room is packed, and there's a line out the door. People are ordering small plates, and Dom is getting nervous they won't have enough food to last the night since the program doesn't even officially start for another hour. This is unexpected, I say. It's so awesome, though, Sydney squeals, flipping her soft curls to one side of her face. Can we do anything to help? I ask Pop when I find him. If you wouldn't mind hostessing, he says, and Sydney cuts him off. Cleo will hostess. I'll help take orders. Willa will handle the door. I'm sorry, let me do that again. Cleo will hostess. I'll help take orders. Willa will handle the door. We should have charged a cover, Sydney says. Pop just grins, but I can tell he's relieved. I told you it would be great, I whisper as I head to the hostess stand. By the time 7 hits, the diner is standing room only. I have a list of about 10 people waiting to get tables and order food. Willa started taking names of people who actually want to perform, and she has a list that's almost a page long. I ask Sydney to take over hostessing for me while I walk up to the mic to do a short introduction. Thanks so much for coming out, everyone. Dolly's is such an important pillar of this community that we wanted to reintroduce this place to some of our newest neighbors. We hope you enjoy the performances. And if this is an event everyone likes, we'll bring it back next month. Everyone applauds. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first guest. Mason comes on stage and I hand over the mic. I'm Mace, and I'm going to try some jokes out on you guys, if that's cool. My eyes widen, and when I rejoin Sydney at the hostess stand, she covers her mouth. Did you know he was going to do that? I whisper to her. She shakes her head. No, but I bet Jace did. I watch Mason for the first few jokes. The first one falls a little flat, but by the third one, he seems to have found his rhythm. The room is warming up, and so is he. By the fifth one, almost everyone laughs. Dom hasn't left the kitchen, so I sneak back to check on him. You okay in here? I ask, and he nods, but he's sweaty, and the line cooks are too. I can tell they're working hard, and I might just be bothering them. When do you take a break, I ask. In like 20 minutes, he hollers over the roar of clanging pots and pans, the heat of moving bodies and fire. Come find me, I say, and just before I turn away, he looks up at me and grins. I will. When I step back into the dining room, I head in Sydney and Willa's direction. But before I reach them, I see that Willa and Sydney are holding hands. They haven't exactly told me what their deal is yet, and I don't want to force them into anything before they're ready. I stand off to the side by myself to give Sydney and Willa a moment, and as I scan the rest of the room, I'm surprised to see a few seniors standing in a corner near the makeshift stage. Valeria is with them, and when our eyes meet, she smiles. Hey, so a bunch of us signed up. Sorry in advance if there's a lot of singing in a row, Valeria says. The crowd starts clapping. They don't mind. She steps up to the mic and says, My name is Valeria, and I'm going to sing one of my favorite songs for you." Her voice is like butter, melty and warm and kind of guiltily decadent. It sounds like something you'd want to eat in the middle of the night. I close my eyes and sink into the sound, and I understand in an instant the difference between high school talent and the kind of singing that can make it big. If she wants to, Valeria could be famous. I spot Miss Novak just as Valeria heads off stage. I asked her to come, but I wasn't sure if she'd show up. The crowd is clapping and whistling, and I see Novak whisper something to a guy standing beside her. It's my dad. Mom isn't here, which I'm grateful for, but seeing them together still rubs me the wrong way. To everyone else, even kids from school, they're just two friends. But knowing that there's more simmering below their surfaces makes something inside me turn red hot. Before I can get too upset, though, Dom comes up behind me and whispers into my ear. "How's it going out here?" he asks. "Pretty good, but look," I say, tipping my head in the direction of Miss Novak and my dad. "That's making me angry," I tell him. "Cleo," he says. He steps in front of me and turns my head to face him, so I'll stop looking at my dad and Miss Novak. They're adults. You can't stop them from talking. You can't really stop them from doing anything. And the only one you're hurting right now is yourself. He throws an arm across my shoulders. "Take it from me. Parents never do exactly what you want them to. You might as well get over that now. Plus, didn't you tell Novak to come to hear your monologue?" I nod and pout for a few more minutes, but then Jace comes over and starts cracking stupid jokes, and Mason hangs out too. I congratulate him on his comedy set, and he blushes. Sydney and Willow walk over, cheeks blushy and hands still clasped. And I let myself be swept up in the music and the company. I let myself be grateful everything is going so well. I haven't told anyone but Dom, but the monologue I wrote is so intensely personal that I'm starting to get cold feet. The second there's a bit of a lull in the steady stream of performers, Dom looks at me. "You can do this," he says. "Remember, you're doing it for yourself, and I guess also for Miss Novak, so she doesn't fail you." I laugh and roll my eyes. "But seriously," he says, "don't worry about anyone else." I swallow hard and nod. I head up to the front, and Sydney applauds and howls like I've already performed something. "Hey again," I say into the mic. "There are so many people here, and I'm suddenly embarrassed and nervous. For a moment, I have more respect for the girls in chorus and for Layla than I ever have before. I just have a little story I want to tell you guys." I look at Novak so she knows that this is my monologue, and my stomach feels like it's in my throat. My eyes find Dom next, and he's looking at me expectantly, just like everyone else in the diner. I worry that I've made a huge mistake. Just then, Layla walks through the door. She's alone. I didn't think she would come, but here she is. I take a deep breath. I step up to the mic. The same song was playing the second I met my ex-best friend, and the moment I realized I'd lost her. I hear myself say. I look at Dom, and he nods encouragingly. I look at my dad, and I have his rapt attention too. I don't look at Layla again. I met my best friend at a neighborhood cookout the year we would both turn 12. It was one of those hot Brooklyn afternoons that always made me feel like I'd stepped out of my life and onto a movie set because the hydrants were open, splashing water all over the hot asphalt. There wasn't a cloud in the flawless blue sky, and pretty black and brown people were everywhere. I was crying. What a wonderful world was playing through a speaker someone had brought with them to the park, and it reminded me too much of my Granny Georgina. I was cupping the last snow globe she'd ever given me in my small, sweaty hands, and despite the heat, I couldn't help imagining myself inside the tiny, perfect, snow-filled world. I was telling myself a story about what it might be like to live in London, a place that was unimaginably far away, sitting in the palm of my hand all at once. But it wasn't working. When Gigi had told me stories, they'd felt like miracles. But she was gone, and I didn't know if I'd ever be okay again. I heard a small voice behind me, asking if I was okay. I had noticed a girl watching me, but it took her a long time to come over, and even longer to say anything. She asked the question quietly. I take a deep breath before I say the next thing, because I know this could give it all away, that lots of people will know that this story I'm telling isn't some monologue I found online from an off-Broadway play or a story I made up on my own. After I say the next thing, everyone will know I'm talking about the very real me and Layla. I had never met anyone who spoke the way she did, and I thought that her speech might have been why she waited so long to speak to me. While I expected her to say, "What's wrong?" a question I didn't want to have to answer, she asked, "What are you doing?" instead, and I was glad. I was kind of a weird kid, so when I answered, I said, "Spinning stories," calling it what Gigi had always called it when I got lost in my own head, but my voice cracked on the phrase and another tear slipped down my cheek. To this day, I don't know why I picked that moment to be so honest. Usually when kids I didn't know came up to me, I clamped my mouth shut like the heavy cover of an old book falling closed. Because time had taught me that kids weren't kind to girls like me, girls who were dreamy and moony-eyed and a little too nice, girls who wore rose-tinted glasses, and actual, really thick glasses, a few people laughed. Girls who thought the world was beautiful and who read too many books and who never saw cruelty coming. But something about this girl felt safe. Something about the way she was smiling as she stuttered out the question helped me know I was... Let me say that again. But something about this girl felt safe. Something about the way she was smiling as she stuttered out the question helped me know I needn't bother with being shy, because she was being so brave. I thought that maybe kids weren't nice to girls like her either. I chance a glance at Layla then. She's looking right at me for the first time in what feels like forever. I keep on talking. The cookout was crowded, and none of the other kids were talking to me because, like I said, I was the neighborhood weirdo. I carried around snow globes because I was in love with every place I'd ever been. I often recited Shakespeare from memory because of my dad, who was a librarian. I lost myself in books because they were friends who never let me down, and I didn't hide enough of myself the way everyone else did, so people didn't get me. I was lonely a lot, unless I was with my Gigi. The girl, she asked me if it was making me feel better spinning stories, and I shook my head. Before I could say what I was thinking, a line from Hamlet about sorrow coming in battalions that would have surely killed any potential I had made of making a friend. Let me start this paragraph over. The girl, she asked me if it was making me feel better, spinning stories, and I shook my head. Before I could say what I was thinking, a line from Hamlet about sorrow coming in battalions that would have surely killed any potential I had of making friends with her. The audience laughed again. The girl tossed her wavy black hair over one shoulder and grinned. She closed her eyes and said, "Music helps me, and I love this song." I know Layla's remembering that day now, too. When she started singing, her voice was so unexpected, so bright and clear, that I stopped crying and stared at her. She told me her name and hooked her arm through mine, like we'd known each other forever. And when the next song started, she pulled me up and we spun in a slow circle together, until we were both dizzy and giggling. Some people would say that this was a coincidence, that I met this girl so soon after I'd lost Gigi while our favorite song was playing, and that her voice made me feel like everything would be all right before I even knew her name. But I'm a believer in signs. I blink a few times, bringing myself back to the present, to this moment in Dolly's diner, instead of that barbecue years ago. This is my farewell to what we were to each other. I'm finally okay with saying goodbye to her, and this is the best way I know how. I was right. She and I were friends for a long time, but things happen and people change, and everything is different now. Still, I hope that girl knows that I'll cherish the friendship we had forever, even after everything. Everyone applauds as I walk away from the mic and rejoin Sydney, Dom, and Willa standing along the wall. I didn't know you were going to do that, Sydney says, shaking me by the shoulders. It was amazing. That was kind of really beautiful, Willa agrees. Her eyes are glassy like she's about to cry. Thanks, I say. And yeah, sorry I didn't tell you. I didn't know if I'd lose my nerve or not, to be honest. But there's clearly something you guys haven't told me. I look at them, pointing from Sydney to Willa and back again. Oh yeah, Sydney blushes so darkly that her cheeks match her pink earrings. We're kissing now, but not putting a label on it just yet. To be clear, Sid is the one who doesn't want to label yet. But, whatever. Willa pulls Sydney to her by the belt loop and kisses her hard on the neck. I clap and grab their shoulders and say, yay, yay, yay. A few other people, not kids from the school, go up on stage next. And I'm feeling really good about everything. There's a juggler and another person who tells a personal story like I did. There's someone who does a really bad slam poem, but I try not to be too judgmental. A guy even asks Miss Dolly about one of the paintings on the walls, the one of Ella Fitzgerald. They haggle a bit, and he ends up buying it. Dom disappears into the kitchen again to cook, and Sydney, Willa, and I grab a table when one finally opens up. About 30 minutes before close, Layla steps up to the mic. And I watch her dark eyes as they scan the crowded dining room. I wonder if she's nervous being in front of so many strangers. But she'll have to get used to it before she gets to London. Willa and Sydney are kissing again, but when Layla's eyes land on me, I poke them. And at the sight of Layla, they look over at me. You good? Willa asks, and Sydney says, if she does something even remotely mean, I'll murder her. How long's that murder list now? Willa asks jokingly, and Sydney glares at her. Guys, shh, I say. When the music starts, my heart swells at the familiar melody. And while I know that Layla is lost to me, maybe this is her goodbye to our friendship, the same way my story was mine. She sings the first line of my favorite song, the song that was playing the day we met, beautifully. She watches me and no one else.